Hi guys, Michaela with Lockie's Lessons here. I know this video has been a long time coming. Part of that reason is because I had to record this video. This is now the third time because I've learned some things going through this because what we're going to talk about today, it has to do with science. And as you know, whenever I put something out, I want to make sure that I'm as correct as possible using legitimate resources. So this was something that I had some learning to do. So I know it's taken a while, and I do have 3 winners from the Trivia-ish Tuesdays. So Suka here is going to help me out today with explaining some of the science behind dog training, as well as to help you understand different terms that are in the dog training world, different terms that are going around to help you try to pick out the right trainer for you, understand my training, as well as understand training as a whole. How this started originally was me and a friend were out a couple months ago now, and we were discussing dog training and things over lunch. And she said, how do I describe your dog training to someone if they ask? Would I call you a positive only trainer? I waved my hands, about spit out my drink, and I shoved my lunch to the side and launched into the discussion of what does positive only mean? What are the different types of dog training? What is stress-free, fear-free, what all that means. And in the course of having this discussion, that was when I kind of identified I have some gaps in my knowledge, and I wanted to help others understand what it means as well, because I realize that not a lot of people understand those terms, but they see them all the time. They just don't know what they mean. They think they know what they mean, but a lot of times that's incorrect. So in the science of dog training, if you want to call it that, does have to do a lot with psychology in general. So what we're going to talk about today is called the 4 quadrants. I don't know if it's what the 4 quadrants are of. I think it's called operant conditioning. It has to do with how you train. There's 4 different ones. So you have what is called positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, and negative punishment. We're going to talk about all 4 of these so you know and understand what these mean. So what does, the first thing we're going to talk about is what does positive and negative mean? Because everybody hears positive and we think of positive experience, like 5-star review. It's a good feeling, warm and fuzzy, right? That's not what positive and negative mean in this instance. What positive and negative mean when you're talking about quadrants is you add something into the training. When you do positive, sorry, there's a honeybee. Do not eat that honeybee. You stay. What positive in this instance means is we're going to add something into the training, meaning, if you do something good, I'm going to give you a treat, right? That's adding a treat into your training. What negative means then is it doesn't mean a bad experience. It doesn't mean mean or abusive or anything like that. It doesn't mean negative in an emotional way. What negative means, just like positive, it's math. It's taking something away in regards to training. So positive, we're going to add, negative, we're going to take away. So then what does reinforcement and punishment mean? Well, a lot of people know what reinforcement means. Reinforcement means I'm going to reinforce a behavior that I like, meaning I'm going to reward that behavior because what you did is what I like. I want to see more of that. On the flip side, you have what's called punishment. Everybody hears punishment and they think of discipline, spanking. You get into your mindset of I'm going to punish my kid. Well, it's kind of similar. You're basically, what you're doing in those instances is you're discouraging behaviors you do not like. You're discouraging something from happening again, and that's what punishment is. We're discouraging a behavior instead of encouraging a behavior. So the first quadrant we have is R+, or positive reinforcement. So you'll probably hear positive reinforcement everywhere, right? Positive, 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 it's everywhere. You can probably find, I don't even know how many hundreds of trainers in your area that do positive reinforcement training, or R+. Not a lot of people understand that R+ means positive reinforcement. And just like we talked about, positive reinforcement is exactly that. It is your treat-based training. It is the praise you give your dog. It's the physical praise you give your dog. It's your vocal praise. It's any good thing that you give something, in this case, our dog. It's any good thing you give your dog when they give you a behavior that you want to see again. You want that behavior repeated. You ask them to do something and they do it, bam, reinforcement. Yes, good job. Here's a treat. Good job. Some pats on them. All of that's positive reinforcement. In the case of what I do, I use verbal and physical praise to build that relationship with my dog. That's what I want you to do, is build the relationship. I take out the middleman as far as treats go. They tend to get in the way, and I'll use those later on down the line. But right now, I need that relationship built up between you and me as the dog. So on the flip side, we have positive punishment. Sounds weird, right? But remember, we already talked about positive means I'm going to add something. It doesn't mean it's a good punishment. It's not that. Positive punishment means I'm going to add something to discourage a behavior. So like, let's say for instance, Suka was barking her head off or she's jumping on somebody. What I'm going to do is add a punishment because I can't encourage that behavior. I don't want to reinforce that behavior. So I'm going to add a punishment. I'm going to pop her on her prong collar or her slip lead or her martingale. You can do it in a harness. It's not as effective because it's not in the neck area, and harnesses are only used for seat belts and pulling. But that's adding a punishment. It's adding a quick pop as a correction to tell her, hey, knock it off. Do not do that behavior. She tried to get a honeybee earlier. I kind of touched her and said, hey, don't do that. Leave it. That is a positive punishment. The sound that Caesar Milan does, that's a verbal positive punishment. The touch he does, that is a physical positive punishment. He's adding something to discourage the behavior. Another form of positive punishment is body pressure. We don't think about this one a lot, but we're adding pressure to discourage a behavior in our dog. So if our dog is jumping on us, we have no tools whatsoever on to give that correction. You can step into your dog's space, and a lot of time it causes them to back up and usually sit down. That's adding punishment. I know it doesn't sound like it because we're not really doing an action other than stepping into our dog's space, but we are punishing a behavior. We're discouraging a behavior. We're not taking anything away. We're not adding a reinforcement. We are physically moving into their space and backing them up, which is adding a punishment. Doesn't sound like a punishment, but we're doing a discouragement of a behavior. So now, what is negative reinforcement? So we already talked about positive reinforcement, or R+. We talked about P+, which is positive punishment. So now let's talk about negative reinforcement. Now, what does negative reinforcement mean? Negative reinforcement can be anything from taking your attention away, so you're going to ignore whatever it is the dog's doing that you want to stop. It can also be, I gave you a toy for doing a good job. When I reached down to take it, you growled at me, so I'm going to take the toy away. I'm going to take that reinforcement or that reward. I'm going to take it away from you. I'm going to take and put you in your kennel. I'm going to take the environment away from you. I'm going to take the stimulation away from you. So that's what negative reinforcement is. That one's a little tricky to understand because we got to keep in mind, we're going to take away any kind of reinforcement, which can be our positive praise. So the only thing I've ever seen negative reinforcement used for that works is that same friend that said, how do I describe you? She has two little girl dogs, very small dogs. And she said when she comes home, they go nuts. They're jumping and barking and just circling her feet, making it hard to walk in the house. They're losing it. And she goes, how can I deal with that? I said, well, you have two options. You can either go get your tools and put them on nice and calm and then give them a correction to tell them this hot mess of a behavior is inappropriate. However, we come home, dogs are either usually in their kennels or they're free roam, not wearing a prong collar as prong collar management should be. They're not wearing a leash, they're not wearing a slip lead, right? So your other option is to use negative reinforcement where while they're doing this crazy behavior, because they are excited to see you, which is fun. We understand that they're excited to see us, but they need to come to a calm state of mind before we interact with them. So we're going to do negative reinforcement. We're not going to give them any attention. We're going to completely ignore it. Typically, after about a minute or two, the dogs get the wiggles out. They settle down. Once your dogs are calm and settled, that's when you're going to give them nice, calm praise and say, hey, buddy, it's good to see you too. Because if you go and they're in a calm state and you go, hey, it's good. See, exactly, she looked at me because the energy went up. We don't want to take our dogs from after they've come down into that calm state and bring them right back up. So you wait until they're nice and calm with the negative reinforcement and then positive calm reinforcement when they offer you that calm behavior to say, hello, it's good to see you too. So slight sidebar here, guys. I forgot to mention, I won't use negative reinforcement too much because it doesn't really work for anything but when you come home and your dogs are overly excited and jumping on you. And I would much rather teach dogs how to be around objects. Like if they're resource guarding, if they're, growling when you're trying to take their bowl or their toy or something, or they're getting into it with other dogs, lip lifting, growling, and the other dogs are not respecting those issues. I'd rather teach a dog how to be around that safely and manage the situation than just completely remove it and never teach them how to have impulse control and how to manage that situation safely, because it's just not realistic. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to make dogs meet nose to nose that I know are uncomfortable with other dogs. What it means is that I should be able to walk on a sidewalk with my dog and another dog be on the other side, and you should be just fine. It doesn't mean I'm going to make that other person pass right next to me, although it would be nice to get up to that level of management. I'm not going to force dogs to be friends with other dogs if they just don't like other dogs. That's not fair. But I am going to teach you the skills how to have that impulse control so you can control and manage your own behaviors as a dog. And I'm going to teach your owners and your parents how to deal and manage the situations and help you learn those skills. So that's another reason why I will not use negative reinforcement too often, other than the when you come home with the excited dogs. So the last one we have to talk about is a negative punishment. Again, sounds a little weird, but a negative punishment means we're going to take away the punishment. So the only way you can take away a punishment is if you've added a punishment in the positive punishment. So for example, if I'm going to use leash pressure teaches guidance. Slow pressure on the leash, you're not popping like a correction. That slow pressure, that is slow leash pressure, it guides. So you have to put the pressure on, which is adding a punishment, essentially. And then you have to release that pressure to tell them they did good. So you've got the negative punishment, the release of pressure, the release of your body pressure when you back up, if you do. E-collar, like Suka's got on here. If I add the vibrate and I'm sitting there putting the vibrate, then if I'm hitting that vibrate when I've asked her to sit, for example, Tom Davis is one of my favorite trainers. This is how he trains with e-collar, is he uses that vibrate function and he'll go tap, 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 tap when he asks them to do something like a sit. And he will stop that tapping vibration when the dog has completed the behavior. So when the dog sits, stops the vibration, good job, here's your treat, positive reinforcement. So that's another way to do a negative punishment. We're taking away the punishment that we added. So the discouraging of the behavior. In this case, it's communication. It's not a discouragement per se, because we're asking you to do something. So if you're standing up, I'm going to discourage you from standing up if I've asked you to sit by tap, tap, tap on that vibrate. When you've done it, it releases and it stops. Hi. So hopefully now all of those make sense a little bit. We've got positive reinforcement, positive punishment, negative reinforcement, negative punishment. So when someone says they're a positive only trainer, typically what they mean in actuality is they are a positive reinforcement only trainer. But here's the thing, guys, is that a lot of positive only reinforcement trainers are not only using positive reinforcement. And here's why. Positive reinforcement cannot help you with discouraging bad behaviors by its own definition. By the only definition of that tool, of what it can do. It can only reward good behaviors, right? It can't do anything for bad behaviors. It can't help you with those. So you have trainers that do like puppy training, for example. You're going to be treat, 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 treat the whole time. That is positive reinforcement only. Most positive reinforcement trainers are actually dipping into the other three. We'll talk about that in a second. But I want you to understand that positive reinforcements cannot help you with behavioral issues. There is no way to discourage those behaviors. They can help teach you commands like sit and down. They might be able to help teach heal a little bit by using luring with that treat and keeping that treat right in front of them to reward them when they're in the right position. But that's it. That's all that tool can do. So if your trainer says I'm an R plus or a positive reinforcement only trainer and they mean it, they cannot help you with behavioral issues. So what a lot of times happens, however, is that these positive only trainers end up actually dipping into these other toolboxes. Like we talked about earlier, a pop on a slip lead or any kind of leash pressure on a slip lead is a punishment because you're adding something to discourage a behavior. Leash pressure tells the dog, I want you to sit. It tells you to stop. It tells you which direction we're going to go. That release of the pressure is negative punishment. You're releasing the pressure. The quick pop on the slip lead is adding a punishment. So they can't call themselves positive reinforcement only. They can call themselves positive only if they're doing positive reinforcement and positive punishment, technically. But people usually, like I said, don't understand positive only means we're adding something. So we're adding reinforcement and we're going to add a punishment. So we're going to pop on a slip lead and we're going to feed treats, verbal praise, and physical praise, right? So keep that in mind when you hear the terms positive only trainers or positive reinforcement only trainers. A lot of times too, they're actually using negative reinforcement. A lot of positive only trainers will tell you to ignore the behavior. That is negative reinforcement. You're taking away the attention or you're putting the dog away. It's negative reinforcement. They're not a positive only trainer. So they're using the wrong terminology and people are getting these images in their heads of, I would love positive only for my dog. That means great things, rainbows and unicorns. It's not exactly what it is, depending on what the trainer is actually doing. Like I said, a lot of your puppy classes are going to be fun and treats. No punishments involved. No negative reinforcement tends to be involved directly. It's just a lot of let's teach sit, let's teach something as simple as down and walking loose on a leash, not in a heel, but loose. So hopefully that helps you understand these terms that float around like positive only, positive reinforcement, R+. Now, there's other terms that I hear all the time that we also need to talk about. One of these terms is stress-free. When you hear the term stress-free, it's the same thing. You think rainbows and unicorns, my dog is not going to be stressed at all with training. They're just going to have a fun time. Wouldn't that be nice? Like I said, puppy training, lots of fun, no behavioral issues. You're learning how to do sit with a lot of treatos, a lot of praise, a lot of fun. Unfortunately, our dogs get older. Our dogs develop in their personalities. Our dogs start having problems, especially if they've never had any of the other tools, especially the punishment tools, guys, because we need to discourage bad behaviors. Woo! We need to discourage bad behaviors. We have to teach them what you're doing is inappropriate in the human world. We have to keep you safe, which is why we train our dogs. It's ultimately to keep them safe. They're a dog in a human world. They don't understand cars coming out of the womb. They don't understand things like dinner plates and dinner time tables and things like that. They don't understand those. We as their owners and their trainers have to teach them these things. We have to teach them the manners we need them to have to live in our world safely, as well as being a good behaved canine citizen. Suka's been in a downstay the whole time. She is off leash. She's on her e-collar. But this is something I have taught her. This is not something that she came prepackaged with, even though I got her at 2 years old. This is not something she came with. So when you hear stress-free, it actually can't exist. And here's why. Because if you say stress-free, that means you cannot put any kind of tool on a dog. I can't put a collar, even her ID collar. Can't put a collar on it. Can't put a harness, can't put a prong, can't put an e-collar, can't attach a leash. What that means is that I have to let the dog decide whatever it's going to do 24/7. And I'm betting that your brain's already going, oh, that doesn't sound good. Because guess what? They want to chase the squirrel. They don't understand the road. We have to teach them, hey, you cross that road to go get that squirrel, or you come cross that road to get me while I'm checking the mailbox. You're going to get hit by a car. You're going to cause someone to have an accident. So we can't have stress-free training. Stress also happens when we're learning something new. It's a good stress. It's going to be a little stressful because it's new to us. We don't understand it yet. We're going to kind of be clunky and not so great at it, and we're going to get a little stressed out. But it's a healthy stress. It's a learning stress, which is good. It's fine. That happens to everyone and everything that has to learn something in the world. That's fine. There is bad stress, of course. We can stress an animal out too far, and then the animal shuts down. You throw too much at a dog in one session, they're going to shut down because they're tired and they're frustrated and they're done. That is bad stress. That's an overwhelmment. We don't want to do that. So we find that happy, healthy balance of enough learning stress that you're going to learn something new and different and you're going to be okay. But I'm going to teach you how to be in this world nice and safe. I'm going to cause a little bit of frustration, however, because I can't let you do whatever you want to do. If I was to let her off the leash without having done any training, if I went out and got a new dog right now, like most of you do, and I tried to do stress-free training, I have to let that dog do whatever it wants to do. And if it comes to me and offers a behavior and I give it a treat, well, I've done positive reinforcement. Does it cause stress? No, it doesn't. But it's called free shaping. If a dog offers a behavior willingly and you reward it, that's called free shaping. We're freely shaping an offered behavior into a command that we can then use on verbal command or hand signals. Or in the case of e-collars, you can use almost like Morse code with beep beep to mean sit. One long beep can mean down, a vibrate with two vibrates could mean heel. It's up to you. Some kind of signal. We shape that behavior into a signal. That's what free shaping is. You can use free shaping in conjunction with everything. It falls in the positive reinforcement category because we're reinforcing the behavior usually with a treat, verbal praise, or physical praise when the dog just freely offers the behavior. All training cannot be like that. Sometimes you find a unicorn dog that's what you're going to get, and you don't have to have hardly any stress. That's why they're called unicorn dogs. They're unicorns. Most dogs are going to come to you and they're either going to have behavioral problems or they're going to come out of that puppy stage, hit those teenager years, and your behavioral problems are going to start if you didn't already have a good foundation of boundaries, rules, and structure built with everything in that toolbox. So that's why your training can't be stress-free, guys. Stress-free is marketing jargon. Same thing as positive only, same things as, well, not necessarily positive reinforcement only trainers, but they try to say they can help you with behavioral issues, and they can't. So another one is called fear-free. Fear-free can't exist either, guys. We have to have healthy fears of things. We have to instill a healthy fear of consequences in our dogs. Healthy fear, again, you have to have a healthy fear. A healthy fear means I've taught you what your correction is. I'm not overcorrecting my dog. I'm going, hey, just like that. Good girl. She looked at me. She's looking at me for direction. So a healthy fear means I'm afraid of getting that consequence if I do something that I've been told is wrong. Just like with our kids. If we tell them don't cross the street because that truck's going to hit you, even if your ball bounces across it, that's a healthy fear. They have a fear of getting hit. We have a fear of getting a ticket if we're in a 30 and we're doing 50 miles down the road and we see a cop car sitting off to the side. We tend to slow down a little bit because we don't want to get a ticket. We don't want to get pulled over. We don't want to get arrested. We don't want to get in an accident. So we have a healthy fear of the consequence that police officer represents. We have a healthy fear of our parents when we're growing up and they say, don't act up in the store or don't act up in the restaurant, or your phone gets taken away, or you're not going to get dessert, or you're going to get sent back out of the room, or you're going to get grounded. We have all these consequences, just like when we go to work. We have a fear of not getting paid, a fear of getting fired if we don't show up for work, if we don't do our work, if we're acting like a fool at work. There's consequences and healthy fears we have, guys. Nothing can be fear-free. If this dog didn't have any fear of my consequences, she's not going to have the respect and relationship with me that she has right now to stay in this downstay through this whole video. This is a dog that has a healthy fear of consequences because we have a great relationship, because I've used positive, negative punishment and positive reinforcement. So that covers stress-free and fear-free. And I hope that helps you guys understand these different things. Like I said, I'm sorry the video took forever to make. This is the third time I've recorded it because when I started making the videos, I thought that I had a concept of the negative punishment and the negative reinforcement. Turns out I had some flip-flop and wrong. And the other bad part is that, like I tell you guys all the time, I try to get you legitimate sources of information I want to be able to point to, right? I don't want you to just believe things coming out of my mouth. I want to be able to point you to my sources, like this is another organization that is legitimate, that is exactly what I'm telling you. Unfortunately, just like a lot of things in the dog world, I got about 15 different answers on what negative reinforcement and negative punishment is. So I kind of had to look at everything and figure it out in my brain using that add and subtract of reinforcement and punishment to really understand what it meant. And if it took me that long to understand it as a dog trainer who's actively practicing this stuff, I can only imagine how difficult it is for just the average pet owner. Um, Not very many people go this far into the science of dog training for sure, but because that's what the marketing terms are, you need to empower yourselves and understand what you're getting when you're looking at other trainers, not just myself. So some other terms that you might hear are balanced trainers, which is what I am because I do reinforcement and punishment. There's a balance just like there isn't any in the universe. You have a positive to negative. You have a reinforcement to a punishment, good, bad. Everything has a balance. So they call us balanced trainers because we give you the whole puzzle. Another set of terms, if you will, that has come out or is coming out and kind of, I think, getting more traction is limited and unlimited trainers. And what that means is that if a trainer is a limited trainer, it means they're only going to use one tool in that 4-quadrant toolbox we talked about, positive reinforcement trainers, as I mentioned. If you're an unlimited trainer, it means to help a dog, you're going to use anything in that toolbox that you can to help that dog humanely, safely, and responsibly. And that's what I do. I'm an unlimited balanced trainer that uses anything in that toolbox that I know works, that is safe for the dog. Most of the time, my training that I've done with every dog tends to be about the same cookie cutter. There's been a few differences. We've had some dogs that have had some trauma, some PTSD, a tripod dog I finally got to work with. So there's different things that we're going to do for those types of situations that I wouldn't do for dogs like Suka, for instance. A healthy, she's now 5-year-old German Shepherd. When I got her, she was 2. It's the same training I've done with multiple dogs at this point. And the reason why, guys, is because it works. If you have a behavioral issue, it works. Even if you don't have a behavioral issue, at some point you're going to have to instill boundaries and rules and structure with your dog in order to have this. We are out in the middle of a park field by where I live. No fences, just me and my dog Suka out here. There's some baseball fields, there's a road over here, and she's just laying here the whole time, having a good time. I've been kind of swatting some bugs off of her, but hopefully that helps you guys out. So the last thing I guess I need to announce are the winners. So Cheyenne is the first winner of the what does the I think it was R plus or what does positive reinforcement mean to you? So Cheyenne is a winner. Malia is another winner of the very last one, and Kelly, you are also another winner as well. So I will get with you to get you your prizes. Thank you so much for interacting with those posts and for giving me some interaction so I could learn to help you guys learn. And hopefully this will help you guys explain this to your friends as well. Everything that I get, that I educate people on, like I said, I want it to be factual. I want it to be true. I want it to be easy to understand and help you guys make good decisions for these guys right here. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, as always, DM me, comment below on this video post, email me, text me, call me. Let me know if you have questions, or if something you heard in the video didn't sound quite right, let me know. I am never going to shut someone down if they come in a respectful manner and say, hey, I think you might have been incorrect on this. Let's have a discussion. Let me show you my resources so we can collaborate and we can better educate both of ourselves plus everyone else. So anytime you guys have a question or anytime something might sound a little fishy, absolutely let me know. Please do. This has been Michaela and Suka with Lockie's Lessons. We do have our website and our Facebook page, so hopefully you're following and liking our page. Hit us up if you need training. If you don't, there's plenty of free stuff out there online. You can Google. Tom Davis is one of my favorite trainers. Cesar Milan, of course, is one of the good ones as well. There's tons of different trainers out there, guys. Decide the one that's best for you, your situation that's going on with your dog, and understand what you're getting into now when you see these different names, and ask questions. When you are looking at hiring a trainer, ask questions. Ask what their methods are. Ask what tools they use if you can't already tell from their website. I'm very upfront that the only things I will use are a prong collar and an e-collar because they are the safest tools. And I explain why they are the safest tools. Hopefully it helps people have better relationships with their dogs, just like Suka here. All right, guys, have a good weekend. Thanks for being patient with me. We'll see you next time. Sit. Wait. Or in the case of e-collars, sorry, we've got a bee.